Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I got a really good question from a viewer the other day regarding whether or not fishing rods break down over time. Meaning, if you've got a 20-year-old rod, will that perform as well as a more recently purchased rod? And it's a very interesting question. It's one that we don't hear talked about all that much. And I've got an answer for you that might actually surprise you a little bit. And as far as I know, this is correct. Now, I can't say that I know exactly how it all works, and I might actually be wrong. And I'm sure there's some of you out there in YouTube land that can provide a much better answer and will let me know if I'm incorrect when it comes to this.
Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app, which will help you select the best fishing places in the lake with features like the lake level, the current flow, the top baits tool, which will help you select the best baits for certain locations throughout the lake. Whether that's a clear water, stained water, dirty water, it'll choose the best bait for that location, provide you with all the information like what structure, what retrieve, different reel, all of the information that you need to catch the fish. This is in the app. The cool part about this app, though, is it's not just based on areas. It does provide you with specific tournament winning data that has been collected to help you figure out your best choices for baits and locations for whatever region of the lake it is that you want to fish. On top of that, not only does the app provide you with best locations, it gives you water clarity as well. So maybe you're on a lake like Lake Eufaula, where there is a bunch of different water clarity located throughout the entire lake. This will help you identify the clearest portions as well as the dirtiest portions of the lake. Plus, the Deep Dive app has now added the wind effect map, which is going to take all of the different wind conditions for the past couple of days and show you what banks on the lake are being hit the hardest. They also have inflow points that show you different places throughout the lake where your water is being flushed into the lake through different ditches and creeks and rivers, providing you with high percentage places to fish and letting you know what parts of the lake are going to be the best areas after a rain. Check out the Deep Dive app to help you become a better angler.
So, with respect to the question, do rods break down over time? My response to that is it depends on the rod. And what I mean by that is if you're using a fiberglass or composite rod, they actually do kind of break down over time. And when I say break down, it's not like they're disintegrating and falling apart, but what's actually happening is you're having some of the fibers break, and from that standpoint, the rod becomes slower in action or softer in action. Meaning, so if it was a fast action rod, it may actually be more of a moderate speed rod now, just based on the breakage of the fibers in the rod, which means it's gonna have more bend to it. It's just gonna be a softer tip, softer rod all the way through. So, in my opinion, that's kind of one of the reasons why if you go and pick up an old fiberglass rod that was built 50, 60 years ago, they're always whipsticks. And it's just because over time, all of the continued use of them and the bending in them actually leads to some breakage of the material that makes those rods. So if you're using fiberglass rods or composite rods, they do tend to slow up or become softer in speed and action. If you're using a graphite rod, which are made of carbon, my understanding is they don't break down nearly as much. You may have some overall wear and tear that can lead to the rod really, really slightly maybe changing, but overall, from a material standpoint, it doesn't work the same way as the fiberglass does, and they hold up significantly better over time. So in those cases, you do potentially have a little overall wear and tear as a rod is used on the fiberglass and composite models, not so much on the graphite. Now, I will say, if you have a rod that you tend to use quite a bit, generally speaking, what'll happen before you start breaking the material down on the rod is you end up scratching the rod or you damage the rod in some form or fashion that will ultimately lead to it breaking. It's pretty crazy how you don't need much damage at all to a blank to allow it to break and snap. Generally, if a rod is going to break because the blank was produced incorrectly or poorly. Generally, what happens when that rod breaks is it looks like it exploded. You have just a lot of shards and shrapnel. If you have a rod that breaks and there's kind of a clean cut on part of that, not all the way through, but just a portion of it, generally what that means is there was a scratch or a nick in the rod and that led to it breaking. And that's why you have a little bit more of a clean cut on that place where it broke. And I would say over time, if you use your rods on a lot, you're probably going to end up having more damage done to it through actual use and abuse of that rod versus just the rod kind of breaking down over age and use. It's just something that happens. You know, if you use a rod long enough, it tends to break at some point because something happened to the rod. But the answer, as far as I know, and I'm asking you guys out there in YouTube world, if you have the response to this, like, I know I love to build rods, but that doesn't mean I fully understand everything about them. But I do believe composite rods, fiberglass rods will break down over time, over use. I shouldn't say break down. They will soften in the overall speed of the rod, the action of the rod, and graphite rods don't do that nearly as much. So let me know in the comment section if you guys have some of the specifics regarding that. Let me know if I'm right or wrong. I would love to know fully as well. But that's my understanding and having talked with a few rod building people over the years. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this answers your question. I appreciate all the support. If you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow for you.